Aarti is the Senior Operational Risk and Control Manager at Danske Bank, and of course with that has a huge amount of experience. So over to you, Aarti. We look forward to your remarks with real pleasure.
Thank you very much for a great introduction. As was mentioned, I've been working, I'm going to do a presentation in terms of digitalization and the impact on the organization, employees, and the society. From a risk management perspective, I've been working 11 years now as a risk manager and for different companies, insurance, facility management, and now in the banking sector. And I've been part of many of these transformation programs, also discussing with other colleagues outside the companies I've been working to try to understand what is the impact and the gaps. Can you please change? I just wanted to add some points in terms of digitalization. What does it mean is applying digital technology to improve your business, and digitalization shorten the delivery of the services, so it's very beneficial for the company and for the customers. Digitalization also can be used for communicating, interacting, and transacting with the customers, suppliers, and employees. So you can use it internally, you can use it with your suppliers, and obviously it has an end purpose of be used by the customer. You can digitalize everything, but only where it makes sense, because you can otherwise it can be a huge exercise for a company, and all industries will be impacted by this change, and many will be disrupted. They don't have the capacity or the expertise to do this big change. As I mentioned, what digitalization is by default about technology, it has also a big impact on the organization, on the skills, on KPIs, on how leadership, in the overall strategy of the company and operations, I would say. And it's becoming a requirement rather than a nice to have exercise, because it's if you want to be competitive in the market, you need to go on that direction. Can you please change? So some of the three key concepts to be successful is to have a strategic agility. Also, the company decides how to transform. There is a lot of components on transformation, so you need to break down on different gates to understand how the components interact. The organizational agility, how the company implements the transformation processes. So how does the whole transformation plan fits into the different processes that exist and to be processes that the company has. And the operational agility, how quickly the transformation can happen. And as I mentioned below, efficiency comes from employees' ability to identify, integrate, and achieve the transformation required by the environment. And I will also say that it's very important that the strategy and the operational part is connected, because there is ambition to have a very big ambition on the strategy that sometimes doesn't fit how the business operates, and that's when it starts to go wrong in general. Can we go to the... So digitalization is a transformation process, so it takes 3 to 5 years, and I will say that depending also again about the size of the transformation. It starts with the customer interface, but cuts across the organization and processes, so all parts of the organization will be partly involved on a big transformation exercise. And it needs a senior leader to see through the transformation. It typically can be a chief digital officer or a transformation officer, and will be appointed by the company to be able to run this huge task. Next slide. So that said, I've tried to gather some of the transformation challenges for the company based on the experience I have and what I've seen. And there is a lack of understanding on the digital business model and business cases. Again, there is a disconnection between what is the ambition and how to go live with it based on the operations that you have and the processes. So there is also a lack of clear policy management process. The policies it's very important. Is the pillar of wherever you build. So if your policies are not in place, they have been embedded in the business, you don't understand the gaps that you have, you don't update them, then there is a challenge. There is also some companies that has tendency to build a very complex governance setup, which also will have a long-term impact because you are not able to update and maintain it. So you need to balance it. So it has to make sense. Then we have the lack of process readiness impacting robotics implementation. Again, implementation of robotics, it's a huge exercise. You need to have your process ready. So there many companies start to implement robotics without understanding that their processes are not ready to run that exercise. Because if, as I mentioned before, the governance is not in place. If you don't have the right processes, if you don't have the right SOPs procedures, then it will have an impact because the robot, you could code the robot wrong. It could extract data from different places and send it to external receivers. So all these things can really have an impact. The data is too fragmented and poor quality for decision making and process simplification. I think that's a very big risk, and that's where is the data in big systems, especially for big global companies that they operate globally. Where do you have all the data? Storage, do you have that overview? Have you created masks on some of the system or interfaces? How do you migrate the data? So many companies doesn't have that overview, and they don't either have the data quality that is required. The culture, it's quite important in the company that they are ready for the change, and the mindset is there, because otherwise you won't succeed to execute on your transformation plan. Organizational fatigue due to continuous changes, that's a risk that has been arising for many times in the last 10 years. Companies are changing and constantly. They are digitalizing, they are changing the setups, they're trying to work smarter, but at the same time that has an impact on the employees. They are tired, they are involved in too many activities, they are concerned about the job situation as well, which creates the motivation. So they are not as engaged. They are also overloaded with work, because a big part of the transformation is that you sunset some systems, and then you simplify some of your processes, but sometimes the timelines doesn't match. So that means that the system didn't get sunset, and then the new system is not in place. So you will have to do a lot of manual work, and at the same time you already have downsized the department. So that also has an impact on the overall transformation plan that you have. Lack of digital talents and internal development of future roles. There is also a big requirement, a big need of people who has this digital insight or are more IT orientated to be able to execute on the transformation plans for the companies. And there are roles also that will be needed in the near future. So the companies needs to identify what are those roles, who you can develop internally to make sure that you are ready for it. Next page, please. Then there is a disconnection between operations and IT. Many companies has an operations department and an IT department, and there is not a good communication, understanding of what is required, and that makes also the transformation program to be slowed down, or sometimes it can also go wrong. And I think it's a very important collaboration between those two departments to be able to succeed on your transformation program. Increase of exposure to business disruptions. Cybersecurity, of course, we're becoming more an IT company. And that has an impact on business continuity and increases the cyber risk. We have seen it. That's happening in the different companies. So you need to make sure that you have fit-for-purpose business continuity plans, IT disaster recovery strategies in place. You make sure that you have tested them, and there is a training and awareness on how to use it. And it's not only the IT department who needs to know it, it's also the business, because business continuity plans are to minimize the financial and the customer impact if you have any kind of disruption. So it's very important that the communication is there and the awareness, because what I've seen it in many companies is that it's only management who knows about what to do, or it's only IT, but the business doesn't know how to react if this happens. Then on the data protection side, obviously data retention policies, interfaces for bodies. Again, where is the data? How do we handle it? Do we have the right SOPs in place? Are we updating them at the same time as we are transforming? I think there is in some companies there is still a lot of gaps on that area. It's a very heavy exercise, but it needs to be done. And I think a good way to do it, obviously, is to monitor your incidents on that area to try to improve it. Then the need to balance privacy compliance with intensive data mining, consents, data sharing, legal basis, protections. And then one of the areas that I always like to mention is changes legislation. If there is higher demands from the authorities impacting the company, the governance, and the process. So I think you need to monitor and make sure that all the changes that you are doing in the company in terms of transformation are following these demands. And then the Corona crisis is driving or forcing digitalization, as we have mentioned. We're working from home, and has been a key theme in this coronavirus. I have to say that in Danske Bank, I'm very proud to say that we managed to send 19,000 employees home and be able to log in, and it did work. So again, this is a little bit of about your business continuity plans. They were prepared and they managed to make it work. So we'll have the minimum impact on our customers and also financial for the company. So that's a very important fact. Next slide. So some tips of recommendations is to start the digital transformation with your own employees, do it internally, see how it works with the collaboration tools, with, of course, HR systems, cloud services, and flexible procedures. Improve the risk assessment skills for business plans. I think the risk assessments are quite key when you do a project and understanding what are the risks in the different activities you're undertaking, and what are the plans that you have to ensure that if they materialize, you can mitigate them. So good risk management, good risk assessment is quite important. Communicate with from the CEO, employees, subcontractors, vendors about the importance of digitalization. Ongoing communications it's quite important. As I mentioned before, have a robust continuity plans to avoid disruptions, ensure that the plans are well communicated and organizational, and perform annual crisis management testing. And I think that's very important. I have done it for several companies. It's an annual exercise that you can perform, where you can see where You can run a cyber exercise and also including some data breaches, and then understand where are your weaknesses as a company. Normally, people use it as a third party to help them to organize this exercise, and you will realize that you will have some weaknesses in some companies in terms of the governance, in terms of, again, where is the data storage if it's a big company. So how is the communication between the business and IT? So it's a very interesting exercise, and it gives you a good insight. And then rotate the staff across the departments and countries. It's important, again, that you avoid dependencies, and that the staff builds knowledge in different areas. As I say, we are moving quite fast, more via digitalization. So it's important to avoid dependencies on employees. Identify future expertise, as I mentioned before as well, and initiate internal development plans is worth and best. If you can't develop people internally, then trying to create attractive roles for external people to join the company. And then set bonus targets for digitalization of revenue. That's an incentive. Recruit for diversity. That also goes again with expertise and attracting different talents. And I think it's very important. Consult with your risk management teams, legal, compliance, IT security departments for advice in any project. Do it from the beginning. Don't wait until it's too late, because you need to understand what are the legal requirements, what are the IT security requirements in each of these product developments, and before it's too late and you have to perhaps kill the project, or you have the wrong people involved, or you end actually reaching some requirements. And now I will leave it open for questions.
Sorry. Yeah. How did Danske Bank prepare for the COVID? How did you train that incident?
How did we train?
How did you?
Well, obviously, we have some continuity plans. We have a physical security department that did planning, and the communication was very good. Again, this is what we have a good platform, so all employees knew what to do from the beginning. We have the support, also the technical support. We have laptops available, everyone. So and then we have some storage also for people who didn't have it. So they're able to work from home. And then of course we increased the capacity of the VPN. That was very quick as well, so everyone could log in. And but I think the most important it was that critical people could work, and we had a list of critical staff that need to be ready to work from day one. And that also minimize the impact.
Have you changed your contingency planning plans from a local bank to the headquarter levels is that differentiated between the different areas? And I guess you need to update that right now in order after this and all the learnings you have received during this COVID times.
Yeah, we have the physical security team updating an ongoing basis. Also the incorporation of the teams back to the office and all the security part. Obviously, we have also document all the lessons learned to make sure that that we are prepared for if a new pandemic comes. But we also are developing action cards in terms of pandemics to make sure that again that's in place.
I can see that we have a question here.
Rotate staff. Does that mean rotate in different functions?
We did that, yes. We rotated in different functions, but again, first was the critical people who has to join. Then we also have some challenges in terms of consultants, obviously, because they are also handling some of our private data. So we increased the security measures. If they work from home, we've added some requirements on what they needed to do, and we make sure that also people rotated in the offices, and they're not, again, keeping the distance and a lot of hygienic measures. But I think but it worked very well, I have to say. But I think the communication was very good, and that's very key to succeed on an exercise like this.
Absolutely.
What about digitization? Being a big project in the organization, do you have some tips for digitization? How to start and how to monitor and how to execute such a huge project?
I think when you have this big transformation program, I think you need to break down, and for the first step is to break down the different parts of the program. Then you need to understand where are the dependencies, and not only in the systems, but also on people. And then that's very important, because otherwise you will end stressing people, and then you also will fail to follow the program in a efficient way. And the benefit, obviously, the realization of the whole transformation will have an impact. But I also think a key component, it will be the testing. Test the different tools and make sure that you are just following the testing part and build clear procedures to follow without overkilling it.
And I guess the training as well. When training in your contingency plans as well need to be expanded now that everybody's involved in it, basically.
Yes. And that's also what many companies felt, that the contingency plans are not communicated in all levels. They are communicated more in a upper level, but the business is the one actually performing the activity. And that's why I also say that there is this connection between the strategy and the operations in terms also on the way that we operate, and that's what you felt.
Exactly. Yeah.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome.